I guess the place to begin is we just found out that breaking news earlier this morning that 3 U.S. service members have been killed as part of this operation in Iran. And of course, our hearts here at Coda Territory News are going out to those members and their families. What do you make of these tragedies, and when do you expect to learn more about that? I know you are on the Armed Services Committee. I would expect you guys would be getting a briefing on this.
Yeah, we received the same notice that you've just indicated, and once again, our thoughts and prayers are with the families of those lost men and women who wear the uniform of this country. Anytime that you put young men and women in harm's way, this is the possibility, and we don't like to think about it, but it's there. In the meantime, what they have done, once again, is to show that the United States is extremely capable and that we are very serious about defending not just our allies, but our own country against threats that literally won't go away. In this particular case, Iran has been responsible for literally thousands of U.S. deaths, and it's time that we address the issue. And hopefully, as we move forward and as the people of Iran move forward, this will be a chance, once again, to find peace in the Middle East. It's not going to be easy. There is always the risk of additional problems developing, but these young men and women that wear the uniform are the best trained, the best led, and our job is to make sure that they are also the best equipped to meet this challenge.
And we've seen today ongoing escalation in this situation. We have the U.S. and Israel continuing to strike Iran, Iran continuing their widespread strikes. How long do you think the American people should expect this conflict to last?
I honestly do not know. What I am aware of is that we know that they had a pretty significant number of ballistic missiles and short-range missiles. We also knew where they were at. One of the attempts that we started early on was to find as many of those supply depots and to take them out. That's one of the first things that occurred when this operation began. We know that there were B-2s involved in that part of the operation, taking out some underground storage facilities. We also know that it's ongoing, that the Israelis have been keeping track of where they hide their weapon systems, and will continue to go after those munition dumps. Unfortunately, look, the Iranians have lots of them. They have been preparing to attack people in the Middle East. And right now, they've not only attacked the Israelis and U.S. bases, but they've attacked other individual countries in the Middle East that were neutral in this. Those countries are now not only defending against the incoming attacks on population centers, but it wouldn't surprise me at all if a number of those countries who wanted to remain neutral in this will now probably have to take up arms against the Iranian regime as they are being attacked by that same regime. The people of Iran have an opportunity, once again, as President Trump has made it very clear, this is an opportunity for them to take back their country and to once again join the rest of the civilized world in a fashion in which peace is very important, and they become something other than a terrorist scourge in the Middle East. It's time to have that happen. We knew that they were never giving up their nuclear weapons. That was very clear. They were negotiating, but not in good faith. And they continue to develop more missiles in order to be able to threaten not just Israel and not just our bases, but eventually Europe as well, all as a terrorist organization. So number one, the president, I know he wants peace. I know he tried to find a diplomatic solution, but he also saw the reality of what was going to happen. And I totally agree. This was not going to be fixed with diplomacy at this stage of the game, not with this regime.
Yeah, I want to get into the substance behind these strikes. We saw the president put out that video statement overnight. That was Friday night heading into Saturday, ultimately saying that after those U.S.-Israeli strikes last year, that the country did continue to pursue its nuclear program, and it also continued to develop ballistic missiles. I've seen your social media posts on this. You seem to agree with that assessment. I know you sit on the Senate Select Intel Committee. What have you learned on those fronts? What kind of information were you guys getting on those fronts?
I can't go into some of the details because it's classified, but I can tell you that the president is correct when he indicates that, look, they were they were going to try to go back in and get the actual nuclear materials. And a lot of the areas, a lot of their facilities and so forth were destroyed. But underground, the actual uranium itself in an enriched state isn't something that you destroy. It was very evident to us that they did not intend to simply leave it there. And most certainly they were still negotiating. And what they said was an attempt to do nuclear power opportunities or to develop nuclear power, not necessarily bombs, but the enrichment level to which they wanted to enrich to was all designed only for nuclear weapons. And so once again, nobody believed for a minute that their negotiations were in good faith. They continued to try to delay while they were rebuilding their missile supply systems. A number of those missiles, had been utilized the last time in retaliatory strikes against other countries in the Middle East after Midnight Hammer had occurred. And so once that was clear that they were simply rebuilding their stockpiles, the question is do you wait for them to totally rebuild and to have those missiles set up and ready to go so that they could inflict more harm as a terrorist nation? Or do you take this opportunity to literally take out those individuals who were not negotiating in good faith and actually stop this once and for all after literally thousands of US lives have been lost and thousands of other innocent lives in the Middle East? Let me just say one more thing. If there was one country responsible for more terrorism in this world than any other, it was the Iranians under Khomeini. And it was time to address it. Hamas, the Houthis, Hezbollah, all of them were being fronted or they were fronting for Iranian terrorist activities. No question about it. It was time to deal with the issue. I wish I could say that diplomacy was going to work. It became very clear to most of us it was not something they were serious about.
Yeah, I want to go on to that mission itself. Now, I know this is probably, again, getting into territory where there's a lot you can't tell us, but I'm curious what you can tell us on this front. New York Times out with a report that the CIA had essentially gotten information that there was going to be a high-level meeting with the Ayatollah and other senior officials, really leading to what it seems like was a major opportunity to strike and take a large percentage of that Iranian leadership out in one attack. And I'm just curious what you make of that mission and if you believe this really was a real open opportunity there.
I think public reporting of that, I have no reason not to believe the public reporting of that account. I will tell you that our capabilities are unique and very, very good. Our intelligence gathering capabilities are second to none. The Israelis are similar in their ability, and when you share back and forth information, it puts us in a really good position to know exactly what leadership, such as in Iran, was thinking and what their intent was. So you are correct. Our intelligence gathering organizations do a very good job, and in terms of collecting the data, making the analysis, like anything when you're trying to guess what the next moves are and so forth, are more challenging. But in this particular case, as in other areas, I can't say enough about the techniques and the capabilities, the competencies of our intelligence gathering systems around the world.
Okay, is it clear at this point how many of Iran's senior leadership remain from the current and possibly soon to be former regime? And I know President Trump right now, he is seeking to ultimately topple that regime. So I guess my question would be how many remain and what seems to be the timeline and the plan there to try to get new leadership installed?
I think time will tell it. It depends on whether or not the Iranian people decide that this is an opportunity for them to once again to reclaim their country. I think we're handling right now, I think the data is being gathered as to just exactly how significant the strike was. I have no reason to doubt the public reports of perhaps as many as 40 top Iranian leaders, were taken out by these attacks. But I haven't had a classified since then. I haven't had a briefing since then. So I'm going by what I'm reading in the newspapers as well.
Taking things a little bit more domestically here, we still do have the Department of Homeland Security shut down. They oversee some key agencies in a time of conflict, the TSA, the Coast Guard. How concerned are you that that department is operating right now essentially unfunded? These are members going without paychecks in such a critical time.
Yeah, there's no excuse for this. I mean, right now, the bottom line is our Democrat colleagues know better. They're acting out. Uh, they have decided that they're going to punish TSA. They're going to punish the Secret Service. They're going to punish FEMA. And all of those are critical. And they're doing that because they're mad about ICE. But ICE is already funded up for the next 2 years, and they know that. And yet they've decided that this is their way of acting out. It's their way of protesting. But now, with this possibility of any sort of sleeper cells or anything in the United States, this is the time in which you join together. And even if they don't agree with everything going on, they should recognize their responsibility to make sure that we do everything we can to defend the citizens of the United States. So hopefully, as we get back in, and I know they're going to want to talk about the War Powers Act and so forth, I hope they damn well understand that they have to fund the rest of government in order to protect the American people. So hopefully, they'll come around on this, and we'll get something done in terms of funding the Homeland Security, and then they can debate and discuss as appropriate, any type of war powers activity.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like this is a very important agency in a time like this, I could imagine.
No question about it. Look, the military is responsible for defending the military operations to being able to operate overseas. By constitutional directive, we allow for the operations within the United States through Homeland Security, through our law enforcement operations, and so forth. We can coordinate with them, but we do not use our military inside by constitutional directive, except for the defense around our military bases. Homeland Security has a major role to play in terms of protecting the American public. Now is not the time to be playing political games. And I think our Democrat colleagues will come around. They'll come back in and they'll recognize it. Look, it's time to fund that and find some other way to do their protest.
All right. Well, Senator Mike Rounds, anything you want to get to, anything we haven't gotten to on this whole situation? I know you're very keyed in on all of these issues. And again, we appreciate you coming on and talking to us about these. But anything that we haven't hit that you think needs to get out there?
I think it's important to recognize that this is the reason why we spend as much money as we do on our national defense. It is to make sure that these young men and women who are in harm's way, and we've lost 3 of them, we've got perhaps as many as another 5 of them that have been injured and so forth. But once again, it's our responsibility to make sure that they have the best resources available to them, that they're well led, that they're well trained, and that when it comes time that their munitions, that their magazine of munitions is filled. That's what we're focusing on right now. That's the thing that we should be able to do. And once again, if you see someone out there as a citizen and they're in uniform, don't be afraid to thank them. And then also think about thanking those families whose loved ones are in harm's way. This is an important and critical time to let them know that we will not forget about them and that we will support them.
All right. Well, Senator, we do appreciate you for joining us today.
Thank you.